Hey, you. Welcome back to the Human Experience. I'm your host, CIERA CRUSE, and this is the place where we talk about all things human, all things life, and everything in between. We are redefining what it means to be human for ourselves rather than listening to what everyone else has to say about it. Today, I'm talking with Olivia Carmella, Esquire, from Models of Authenticity, which is a purpose-driven community that exists to nurture authentic self-expression in a world that is constantly telling us to be you, but not like that. And I love that. Thank you so much for being here.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So we connected for everybody else that doesn't know on a TikTok video that I made that went a little crazy about capitalism. And
Yeah.
I love that, yes, you made a response to that really expanded on it that I loved. So I'm super excited to talk about that. But first, I would love to hear about your brand, Models of Authenticity, and why you created it.
Totally. Thank you so much. I love this question. So as you gave a great intro, Models of Authenticity is what we're saying now is a purpose-driven, community-based brand that exists to nurture your practice of authenticity. It's an ever-evolving elevator pitch, which I like because we're ever evolving. So, but no, it's a brand that really exists in several different forms, like an online community in the form of discovery resources and tools. But our main goal is to nurture your practice of authenticity. And our little tagline is so that you don't miss out on you, which I love because it creates like the sense of urgency that I'm trying to convey, that we all need to stop conforming in the many ways that we've normalized, in society. And we need to start being authentic like right now. And my brand exists to help you do that and like figure that out along that journey and be in community with other people who want to do that.
I love that so much because that's like such a huge reason as to why I make content, why I have my brand, The Human Experience. It's to help people understand that if you aren't living in a way that feels natural and authentic to you, we can change that. We don't have to just conform and exist in this paradigm that doesn't work for us. So I absolutely love that. And I will have all of Olivia's content pages linked down below because I love especially your Instagram page because Instagram's the one I'm on the most. And so I love all of the posts that you always have encouraging authenticity and self-expression. So it's beautiful.
Thanks.
Of course, absolutely.
Thank you. The Instagram is definitely our most thriving community, and I run that by myself. And even though I say we and us and our, it's just me. I'm everything. I'm customer service. I'm the founder and the brand manager. So that's all me when you see those posts and stuff. And the other cool thing I want to say about our Instagram is that we don't like plan any posts or like pre-make any posts. So everything that you see is like, I just made it and then I posted it. I love that. It's really just supposed to be a curation of authenticity. And like, I love the response we've gotten to the page. People will reach out and say, what they use the page for. And I love to hear that. I've had some people say like, I go to your page literally when I wanna like check in with myself and like make sure I'm being authentic in a situation that's on my mind, or like hear a quote that will like get me in that headspace. And it's so cool to hear how people use the resource that is our Instagram community.
Totally. I could definitely see that for the page as well.
So
I love how a big part of your message is trying to get people to stop conforming or stop feeling like they have to conform. So I would love to hear your opinions on which ways you feel like society tries to make us conform.
Totally. So I think there's enough examples in my own experience. So that's what I'll be speaking from, the ways in which society pushes us to conform. Well, I think I know we're going to get into capitalism today because that's what that was our initial like connection point. So I know that's going to be definitely a part of the conversation, but I think it's deeper than that. It's this deep set conditioning that does come from capitalism, but it's evolved into something much more watered down and I think sinister and I'm speaking specifically about this formula that's like, you have to go and make money to live on this planet and function in this society. And I'm quite an ambitious and driven person. So I was like, okay, then if I have to do this thing, then I want to do it like well and do it a lot and in abundance. So that's what drove me to make the career decisions that I did as a young adult. And they were so unfulfilling. And It didn't work out. And as I reflect back on that experience, and I get to the root of like, why was I conforming to this like life plan, this linear path that like I didn't make up? So why was I devoting 100% of my time and energy to making it work? That was when I realized I had gone awry, and that I'd just really gotten really lost in conforming to something that I didn't identify with. And I had to come all the way back out and literally like backtrack and see how I got there and like how I needed to reroute. So just speaking from my own personal experience, I think that this very linear binary path that everyone is supposed to go on in order to function in society is what's like the root of a lot of conformity that I've experienced and others have experienced.
Totally. I couldn't agree with you more. I that's one of the things I'm really passionate about spreading, is like the system that is created it's structured in such a way that hinders us from really authentically expressing ourselves because of the parameters and the hoops we must jump through just to survive. I don't think I think when we literally just look out into nature, Mother Nature provides everything that we need for us. So why do we allow somebody to create a system that makes it so hard for us to survive? It's so unfair, and somebody created it to be this way. So why function in it when it doesn't work for even the majority of us?
Right. Well, and I can be quite selfish. I'm an Aries, and empathy is something that, and my friends know this about me, a lot of people know this about me. Empathy is something I have to consciously like apply in my head. Gotcha. So my first gut reaction, like realizing that capitalism and those goals and those pillars weren't working for me, was like, I'm not making it me. It wasn't just like, I look around and I see capitalism not working for everyone else. I think, and this is also a very American mindset as well. It's so individualistic. There's no community. It's just me, right? So that's a flaw of mine that I consciously try to work on, but I want to be honest about it. So my first reaction to failing at capitalism, really, I failed at it. That's another important call out. Like, I often wonder, and the pandemic had a big hand in this, but I often wonder, like, would I have kept doing this? Now, and by this I mean doing my capitalistic part to live on this earth and crushing everybody else who stands in my way, because that's what's required of you in capitalism. Ooh, I wonder if I would have
that part.
That's you have to be a bulldozer to survive.
In a lot of ways, absolutely.
In a lot of ways, and I realized being a bulldozer literally didn't feel good. It didn't feel right, and I didn't like how I felt when I did it.
Right.
And so that was a hint that it wasn't a setup that worked for me. Again, I was only thinking about myself. I know that it obviously doesn't work for a lot of people, especially a lot of people that look like me. That's not lost on me. Right. Like I said, I'm just speaking from my own experience, but yeah, I failed at it. And I don't know if I want to hear if you feel this way as well. My capitalism experience was like, I always felt like I was barely making it. Like I was treading on the top of water. Like I was skating on the top of water. And if one ripple went awry, the whole house of cards was going to come down. I don't know if that's like deep-seated imposter syndrome or if it was really what my experience was. What do you think when I say that?
I totally feel that, because it's just a system that never felt good to me. Like I felt so forced into it, and like I had no choice. And so in that way, it did feel like at any moment I could just slip and drown into it, like following the analogy that you were giving, because because it's just like, this is not what I want to be doing. This is not what's fulfilling me, but everybody else is doing it. This is how I have to survive on this planet. So I can't really get away from it. But then I started to realize, like, well, I can do whatever I want, because this system and everything we do is created by other people just like me that are doing whatever they want. And we're just all employed into it, and we're just doing it and following their lead. And it's like, I don't want to follow their lead. This does not work for me. But I also, I think the challenge can be too, is that you have to kind of play the game to change the game. Like at this moment, we can't get away from it yet. And that is why I think it's so important to have these conversations, though, is to get people to kind of create a community so that we can make a plan together to do something differently. Like, this is just such an unfair way to live that really literally makes no sense Makes literally no sense at all.
It doesn't make any sense. I'm smiling because I'm thinking about this TikTok that I saw. There was this Black man, really an emphatic Black man. I want you to have this image, like really excited. And he's like, he's on the same wavelength and mindset that we are. Like, the system isn't working for us. Let's stop using money. Let's stop using the government. Let's just barter. And he's like, and he's being serious, but I think it's hysterical. He's like, if you know how to make clothes and I know how to make soap, and I don't know how to make clothes and you don't know how to make soap, let's trade and let's meet up by like region. And he's like laying out a plan. He's like, let's start today. And
I feel that
you're kind of saying like, let's have these conversations and let's get people, talking about it. This man wants to start grouping by region.
Oh, maybe you need to send me his info.
It's so funny because he's just so about it. And I'm sure you've heard a lot of the buzz about how this year, the way the planets are aligning, or astrologically, or the French Revolution, or whatever, like things are supposed to be overthrown and burned, and that's supposed to be happening, which we can all tell and feel that already, and I'm really excited for.
Yeah.
So I think it's a great time to be. Yeah, I think it's a great time to be having these conversations. I agree. I just was smiling because someone out there is already trying to organize this and get it. And I love
that. That's what we need. Like, it's because it's not an easy thing to do. You know what I mean? Like, it's very difficult to create a different paradigm and to shift the way that you live, especially when we still do have to, in some ways, navigate through this capitalistic system that's set up. My video on capitalism, there were a lot of people that it either went right over their head what I was saying, or they just were like, well, what do you want? Socialism or feudalism? And I was like, I'm not really proposing we do. Well, for me, I'm like, I'm not proposing we do anything that's been done already. Like, everybody's kind of knee-jerk reaction is, well, this isn't better, or this isn't better. And it's like, well, why? Let's innovate and do something different. Why
let's
go backwards?
Open our minds. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Totally.
And so I know that you mentioned how, because you are a lawyer, and I'm so excited about that. So I would love to talk to you about in what ways you feel like not even just the public system that you went through to get those credentials, the kind of conformity you experienced there, but also within the justice system. Like, what are your opinions on that?
Totally. So I'll say briefly, and because this is a lesser comment, I loved law school, and I loved it, and I would do it again in a heartbeat. And I loved it because even though there were a ton of people there that had different views and experiences that I didn't agree with or want to really validate, the thing that was universal was that everybody had receipts. Everybody had reasons based in literally fact for why they felt and believed and voted the way that they did. And now functioning amongst the general public, where people are just like, can't even tell their left hand from a hole in the ground. Like, I really valued that community and the way that it allowed me to grow so rapidly. And like, I got a lot smarter. I don't know how to say that in a smarter way. I learned how this shit works. And
that is why I'm so excited to talk to you.
I learned how this works. And so I value going to law school because it gave me two things. One is my insurance policy. I will always be able to eat. People always need lawyers. And that doesn't mean they're always paid well, but people always need lawyers. And then two, you will never play me because I know what's going on.
Yes,
I know what you're doing. I know what's going on. So, and so for that, I'm grateful that I went to law school. When you want to talk about how that's applied to the justice system, I will say, when I went to law school, I didn't know what I was going to do when I came out, and my first job out was prosecuting like low-level traffic court and low-level felonies, sort of. And I loved the courtroom. I loved litigation. I loved being in the courtroom because I'm someone who, and people can relate to this, like, I love to take in information and then call out the inconsistencies. Don't women love to do that? I love to do that.
Totally.
So I love for you to give me a statement, and I have what you said before, and in my head, I can flag all the inconsistencies and then just completely destroy you with them. And that's what you can do in the courtroom. And I loved doing that. It came very natural to me. It felt like I was using a natural muscle that was meant to be worked within my brain. And I loved that. I did not continue on that career path because the courtroom is not fair. And I've talked about this. In some of my own Instagram lives on the Models of Authenticity page, where I go, there's a series called Olivia Being Authentic. And I talk about stuff like this, and it wasn't fair. So like, I have these great skill sets, regardless of what I look like or how I identify or how I came out into this world. And I want to use them.
Right.
But in this system, there are racist judges, racist jury members. So even if I have the skill set, and even though I went to law school and I took the bar and I passed the bar and I did all the things that even Tom Girardi did and every lawyer before me, JFK did. I did the same things that they did, but it doesn't come from the same mouthpiece.
Right.
And when you're a lawyer, your ability to convince and persuade is everything. So if whoever I'm trying to convince and persuade, be it a jury or a judge or another attorney, if they view me as less than, which they do, because, they're probably not a double minority like myself, I'm already starting at a disadvantage. And I know they say that, like, I know everyone says that, like, Black people have to work twice as hard to get half as much. And I simply did not want to do that. I did not want to work twice as hard for half as much.
Right.
I wanted to work under the normal conditions of no racism. I wanted to be, I know this sounds bananas, but just like, work with me. I think I would be an excellent trial lawyer in a court system that's fair, but that's not what we have.
It doesn't sound crazy at all.
It doesn't make sense for me to be a trial lawyer because I can't win or use the skills that I love to use and I feel that I've been blessed with, because the system isn't,
it's rigged.
I don't know how else to say it.
It's rigged. It's rigged to pertain and to continue a certain narrative that only that only benefits a certain group of people that look a certain kind of way, that follow certain kinds of standards and rules. And it's a lot deeper than I think a lot of people try and think about, because I think a lot of people just would rather not think about the big issues such as the structure of the system, totally. The unfairness of especially the justice system. But I genuinely can't fathom that there are people that don't see the injustices within the system. Like, how can you not see it?
People don't want, if they don't see it, then they don't want to. 1,000%.
Because they have the privilege not to want to as well.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And
that part.
It's right. And it's like, that right there is like a huge example of how the system is rigged. You have the privilege of not understanding or having to go through or really getting these injustices on a personal or even communal level, because you're in the group that this was kind of made for or made and built around.
Yes, that part. And it's super interesting being on the inside, because
I bet
the way that, so going back to my prosecutor experience again, the way that these people talk about human life is bananas. They are like, the way they barter about how many years, and by they, I mean like a prosecutor and a defense attorney who are working somebody's trying to put somebody away and somebody wants them to get less time. The way that they barter about the amount of time that someone will spend behind bars is like 7 to 9. The guy will go 2 to 3, 2 to 3. And the guys go 8 to 11. And the guy will go, all right, 5 to 6. Like, it's just like a game. Like, and you can tell, and I've just seen these things just walking around in this community. You can tell that these people have no tether to the fact that this is a human life. That thought is so far detached from what's going on as you decide this person's fate. I was like, like, I did not know that it was that was the state of affairs. So again, I'm seeing myself in this community where I'm just like, so I don't think I can do that.
Right.
And again, it's not about academics. It's not about education. I earned the job. I could do the job, but the way this is set up, I don't, and I knew I wasn't going to be the change. That was the other important thing. And this is a controversial hot take, but I, again, have to look out for number one. And I'm always looking out for number one, because if I have an empty cup, I can't put anybody's face mask on. You know what I'm talking about?
Absolutely.
If I pass out, I can't put anybody's face mask out. So of course, I wish the things that I were describing weren't true, and I'm a Black lawyer and I made it and I should try to be the change. Yeah, but if you're hearing what I'm describing, with what power? With what? I mean, even once you cross the finish line, okay, you're an attorney and you're barred and you're amongst us, I'm still the lowest of the low. It's just a whole new ladder. Like when you go from high school to college, it's just a whole new ladder to climb.
Right. Wow.
And I was exhausted. I'd just gone through 19 years of school, from kindergarten straight to JD, no time off. And then I graduate, and I thought that was a really big ladder. I just climbed the biggest education ladder ever. Let me come in here and stunt. And with my brain, not even with my brain. And I got in there and they were like, congratulations, you're now at level 0 again. And I just was like, oh, I can't.
Yeah. Wow. I never really thought about it in that way. And it's really crazy, because something that you touched on is how they kind of, how they talk about human life with no really regard to how this is genuinely a person. And I'm reading this book right now called The Synchronicity Code. And it talks about something called compassion fatigue, in part, and how when people are in power or are caretakers, how over time they start to lose that compassion for that this is actually a human being, this is actually a life. And so I think that that's really interesting, because like my mom is a nurse and they get courses often in compassion fatigue, because it's something that happens with caretakers as well. Yeah. And so I think I've never heard
that makes sense.
Right. And I've never heard about any government officials, I could be wrong, having to go through any training or anything like that. And these are people that can end people's lives, like that can send them to death row.
Yes. Oh my gosh. That's the other thing I didn't realize. Sorry to interrupt you, but it's just emphasizing your point, underscoring your point. That's the other thing. So I was prosecuting. You have to remember, that's representing the government. I was representing whoever my client was, and I represented public entities. So I had so much. The other thing that was bonkers to me was I was maybe like 25 at the time. I could decide what these people paid in court fees, how long they went away for, if they were charged for like multiple charges or just one or maybe 3, or if any at all. Who am I?
Right. Oh my God. Yes. Right.
I just got here, and who am I? So that was another part. And I went on to practice many other types of law. Prosecuting was just like fresh out of the gate. Because it's like traffic court, and they were like, who cares about traffic court? But like, but it matters, because people get into accidents, and these fees affect Black people differently than they affect white people. And so like those things still matter. And the fact that they were thrown into my hands as someone that just got here as a lawyer. And then I think about the conversations I'm hearing in the hallways, and I'm thinking about those people being given this power that I have to make these kinds of decisions, but on a more grandiose scale, to your point. And I'm like, you guys are talking about human life around here like it's poker chips, and it's making me extremely uncomfortable. And it was just, that was the club. Like that was the name of the game. That was the vibe of the courthouse. And
I love that you said, who am I? Because I feel like I think that all the time. Who is anybody to decide like such a huge thing for somebody else's life? Like, I get that there are a lot of people that have done really bad things. And would we want those people necessarily mingling with us in society? No, but there is a more humane way to do things. And just like you said, like you got kind of thrust into this position and you had all of this power. Imagine somebody that's racist with this power, homophobic with this power. They don't check those. They don't check those things.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
That part. That was exactly my point.
And we in this society in America, like you were saying, we kind of are stigmatized as being very selfish people. And to an extent, being selfish is a healthy thing. Like you said, you have to fill up your cup before you can fill up anybody else's.
Take care of number one. Yeah.
Right. But we don't have a sense of community. We don't have a sense of taking care of one another. And we do have that idea that you kind of have to step on people's necks to get where you want to go. And in that way, it just
bulldoze,
right. And it breeds a grounds of competition and of kind of it can give you the feeling that you are allowed to play with people's lives in whatever way you want if you are in a position of power. And that's such a scary thing.
Yes.
We don't mentally check these people that are making decisions for other people's lives on a government scale, on a justice scale, on a medical scale. And it's, they're just,
think about what you're talking about right now as applied to police. So another part of my job was educating police on the differences between like probable cause and reasonable suspicion, which is things they should know from their 6-week fucking course that they went through to be a fucking cop. But so take everything you're saying and apply it to cops. Nobody's checking. Right. You're giving them all this power. Right. They decide who to pull over, what to do when they pull them over, what to charge them with, what to write on the form, whether to kill them. And nobody's checking what happens when we give people like this kind of power. And I also wanted to comment on how you're saying, like, yes, this is a very individualistic society, but the way that we reward and incentivize bulldozing just makes it worse. Like, we don't incentivize peace. We don't incentivize community here. Capitalism incentivizes individualism and bulldozing over other people. So that means if I get good at bulldozing, if I get good at those skills, I succeed. That's what I mean by incentivize. Right. You're not incentivized to be kind or peaceful by capitalism. Right. So then nobody does those things because it's not incentivized.
Right.
And so I just wanted I feel like it would be lost on me if I didn't say, like, think about what we're talking about. Yes, me as a prosecutor in a suit deciding fate, but now put a gun in my hand. Right. And I'm racist, homophobic, same power. Right. Out on the street with a gun.
Right. And one of the big things too is, like, we go through this mandatory education system that we all have, and none of us are taught how to understand our emotions. None of us are taught how to empathize and have compassion with one another. And so it's like all we are taught is that competition. Oh, you got an A, I got a B, I'm better than you, or what clothes are you wearing? Like, this system, the entirety of the US system, capitalism, the whole deal, the social system, the school system, it's a structure set up to encourage us to just want to compete and fight with one another rather than unite and do things together to create a more harmonious way of living. Like, we are literally trained to not care about the other person.
And rewarded for not caring about the other person. And I want to say, again, in my evolution, like my spiritual journey, and the people I used to surround myself to, I want to, in case anyone in that mindset is listening, I want to say, there was a time when I became a lawyer and I was making 6 figures right out of the gate. And I was not at the place that I am mentally in my spiritual awakening. Understand this, but I'm authentic. And if you're not authentic, then you can't connect with people who are at a different level than you are. So I definitely was like, okay, yes, I want to fund social programs. I do recognize that people who are not as fortunate as me need assistance, and the government is the entity in place to provide that. However, I just did all this work to fund my own survival, and that is my number one concern. And people who are stuck there, and it's about empathy, totally, because we're not trained on that. But people who are stuck there, that's the reason why this doesn't change. Because people, and that's often called what? Like it's complicity, but you see it more in the majority groups that are doing better for themselves. They're like, yes, I recognize that racism, homophobia, any other social issue that we have going on right now sucks, but it doesn't affect me. I did my survival part, and I'm surviving. I'm sorry that you're not, but I was trained to be an individualistic human. So I'm sorry that you're not, but I am. That's why this isn't changing. I don't think that people don't recognize. I mean, of course, there are some heathens that don't recognize that, like, racism and sexism and homophobia are issues, but like, and capitalism are issues. But just think about the people how many people do recognize, and how many people are like this that you surround yourself with. They do recognize that it's a problem, but they made it.
Right.
And I definitely felt that way as soon as I started making money that I'd never made before. I was like, okay, I made it.
Right.
Fuck everybody else. Like, and I'm not there anymore because it's not sustainable. Right. But I want to just connect with those people and bring them up to where we are in our consciousness and how we're thinking about living in a completely community-based society. Because it's not sustainable just because you survived and you made it. That's not enough.
Right.
That's not enough, and it's not going to last.
Yes. And I love that you said that, because that was a lot of the comments I got on my video. And I was like, because there's a lot of people like, what are you saying? Of course you can climb to the top. I never said you couldn't. I said the majority of people, capitalism is not designed to allow the majority of us to all be on the same playing field, to all be at the top. And there are people that are like, well, we can't all be at the top. We can all be at the same level. Like, look at nature.
Why does there have to be a top?
Yes.
Why does there have to be a top?
Yes. Yes. And it's like, we're conditioned though, that top, that house, that car, that dollar amount, that's what will make us happy. And so it's like, that's what everybody's striving for. So, and I think because we're so conditioned to go for that, it's like the thought process that is not what's actually important really hits home for people in a way that they don't want to continue the conversation.
In a way that they don't want.
Yes.
Yeah, and they don't want to go there. It's the same with any other social issue like racism or whatever. They recognize when it's real that it exists, but once it's like, oh, this is impacted. Oh, I don't want to.
Right.
I deal with this. I mean, I'm open about this. I have a white mother. I was born to a white mother and raised by a white mother, and I struggle with this with her because she's absolutely like, but I've built. She doesn't say this explicitly, but and what I imagine her to be suffering from is I've built 60 plus years of my whole life under a certain mental paradigm.
Right.
And now you're telling me that that's not it anymore. That's scary as hell.
Right.
I know that maybe what you're suggesting is better for the collective and the common good. This is what these old people are thinking.
Yes.
But that's scary as hell to change everything I thought I knew about society and everything else. And that's why a lot of people don't abandon capitalism as well. It's scary.
Right. And it absolutely is. It's because to look at the system in a new way, it calls into question every choice you've ever made in your life. Right. And you start to think to yourself, well, these people are trying to do it differently. Could I have done it differently? I was miserable and I didn't do anything about it. Should I have? I think it just really hits a nerve that sometimes is too difficult to really divulge into. And so a lot of people just want to push it away. But that is that's not the answer to moving forward.
It's not.
And it's not. Like
that's not where growth is.
100%. It's stagnancy. And so I can't remember, I believe it was AOC, but don't quote me on this, but I believe it was AOC that said, people don't make billions, they take billions. And in this society, that is so true. Like, you are making this huge amount of money because at some level in your system, in your company or whatever, you are either underpaying people, you're getting cheap materials. Let's talk about Amazon for a second. Use them as an example.
Yeah, that's like the first thing that came to mind. Yeah,
because
people are dying in his warehouse, but that's how he's able to make billions.
He's about to be a trillionaire. Yes, he's about to be a trillionaire. That is unbelievable. And there are people that have a dream of getting to where he is. And because of that dream, they're like, no, capitalism's good. No, it's not. Like, no, it's not at all. There's like millions, billions of us suffering in this system. And just because a select few are the ones stepping on those suffering to get there does not make it a good system. Like, I promise you. It's just,
I promise you. And that applies
the dream
to that
aspect of
nonsense too. It's the dream.
Yeah.
And in order for you to have it, someone else must not. Actually, a lot of people must not. And I mean, even people that I hold in really high regard, like, this is a mental challenge to get them there. That, like, yes, this has been sold to us as the answer. But I feel like the reason I was able to pivot and start Models of Authenticity and completely give that up and be super unemployed as I am now is like, I just knew that I had no other choice. It was not sustainable. It sounds like your decision was, and please correct me if I'm wrong, was maybe more of like I don't agree with this, so I'm going to make a life change.
Yes.
Mine was literally like, I'm up against bankruptcy. So my mental health is the worst it's ever been in my entire lifetime. And if I continue on this route, I will not be here tomorrow. So I'm going to make I had to hit complete rock bottom and I think that's just because I'm hard-headed and like, I don't take anyone else's.
An Aries.
I have to experience it. I'm an Aries. I have to experience it. You can't tell me. I have to do it.
Right.
It's cool that someone was able to just tell you, or you were able to tell yourself, like, we're making a change. I had to have capitalism had to like rip everything away. And I realized, so I did 19 years of education. I did what the white people do. I got the protective degree and the salary with it. I should be good to go, right?
Right.
And when I realized I was not good, I was the furthest thing from good to go. that's when I was like, okay, this is a trap. This is a game. This is 100%. A joke. And I guess the people who get to that level and then they cross the finish line and they're able to sustain themselves, I would argue that they are unhappy deeply at some level, but they're not willing to go there, and they're making do, and they're plateauing, and they're maintaining, and they're content to do that.
Right.
That would be my guess.
You have people that are rich celebrities that tell you all the time, money is not the answer. And people that are still chasing that dream of being rich and that's what will make you happy. They don't want to hear that because that's the dream they've been sold. That's the reason they're doing what they're doing. But that's the reason
they're doing what they're doing.
Right. And so it's like, people are telling you all the time though that it's not what you think it is, but because they've never experienced it for themselves, they want to go through that themselves and see that, just like you said. And it's like, for me, I just from a really young age always felt like we were just doing things weird. Like I felt like life was weird. We were doing things wrong. I like seriously from like 6 years old. Like I remember my mom took me with her to the voting booth. I think it was for Bush, because I was born in 97. So I was like, I think it was like 2004-ish. And so I think it was for Bush. And she just started explaining to us why we were there, what she was doing. And I remember thinking, we're voting for one person to make a lot of decisions. I know that's not exactly how it is.
No, but it is.
Okay, right. Well, but I was like, why? And so from that age, I was just like, why are we making life so weird and hard? Like, why do we have to pay for things? Why do we have to? So for me, it's always been this feeling.
Wow, that's so cool.
That's really spiritual person.
I mean, that's really cool. I mean, you've probably been here before or at a time when it was better. And then you're like, why is this like this? Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense for sure. That's very cool.
Thanks. So I'd love to ask you, in your opinions, in what ways do you think we could start to change things, either in a capitalistic way or just societally structured? What ways do you think we could start really making change?
I feel like my answers are so influenced by my own experience, and what works for me doesn't work for everyone.
Right.
But the first thing that comes to mind is quit your job and start your own thing. Start your own creative thing. That's what I did. Quit your job. Quit your job. And my friends around me who are my age with my same bank account level, which is low, and there's nothing coming in. We are yes. What do I
love it. I love it.
We are the happiest we've ever been because every day we choose when we work, and when we do work, we're completely fueled by passion. Right. And I work way more than I did when I was employed for someone else. Like I love to work full Sundays. I work all Sunday and I work all Monday. I love to do that. Would I ever do that for a job? No, because, and this is again, how working for yourself, especially doing something creative. And creative doesn't just mean art. I don't care what it is, but doing something creative, like become a drone pilot or something. That's creative. Like working for yourself means that you are not working for somebody else's dream. You're working for your own. And capitalism at its core, and I said this in my video, that I stitched with you, is working for someone else's dream. Right. And as long as you're working for someone else's dream, you're distracted. Right. And as long as you're distracted, you can be abused. That's just boiling 100%. It down. That's just boiling it down. And on a really surreal level, I experienced this. You take it out of the corporation thing. Obviously, everybody in a corporate job should quit it. Mine, again, fired me, but whatever way you get there, leave that corporate job. But even when I asked a friend, at one point, Models of Authenticity was thinking of taking on a creative director, and we were talking to people, and the person that we selected ended up being like, I think I want to start my own thing. And I was like, absolutely, go do that. Yeah. Because again, like I would be no better than like a Walmart or an Amazon, making that person work to fulfill my dream, Models of Authenticity. That's not to say you won't take on employees or whatever later, but just where I'm at right now in fighting against capitalism, I 1000% supported that person like launching their own thing instead. And then it reinvigorated me to be like, no, this is me. Like Models of Authenticity is me right now. And I'm the only one behind it. And this is my dream. And I don't want to distract anyone else from their own dreams. So I think the biggest, most tangible piece of advice, anyone watching who wants to make a change, is quit your job. And I don't have any money. I don't have any savings. I didn't have a plan for how I was going to work after I quit my job. Things just happen. Money just comes in. Money just comes in. And I know, like, if I saw this 3 years ago, I would be like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. Money does not come in. Money comes in from nowhere. Especially with like Instagram now and the kind of access that we have. Like,
absolutely,
you can DM Rihanna or someone that works with Rihanna, and there's a good chance if you try really hard, you will get in contact with someone that works with Rihanna. That's the kind of access we have with the internet and social media nowadays. Quit your corporate job and do something that's connected to your passion.
Right. And that fulfills you. That's that's one of my biggest messages is I never am trying to get anybody to 100% agree with me or follow me. I want to inspire you to do your own thing if you are not happy, to open your mind, do your own research, and to think for yourself. Because if you're, and I just want to let you know that I'm over here also feeling this way, and that you can use me as a soundboard or whatever to follow your passions and like move along. Like, I just want to create a community of conscious people that want to be authentic and do their own thing and live for themselves and their lives. I love it. I know.
I do too.
I had so much fun talking with you today, Olivia.
Yeah, this has been excellent. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, thank you so much. Do you want to share where everybody can find you on your content pages and whatnot?
Absolutely. We are at Models of Authenticity on all socials, fortunately, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. Get your professional on. We're on there. Also, our website is modelsofauthenticity.com. If you're in the California area, we're doing a pop-up shop in person on July 25th in Pasadena that we've promoted on our page. So you could buy some cool merch and come see us in person. Other than that, definitely join our Instagram. That's our most active community and the easiest place to get in touch with me if you want to work together. And that's it. I just so appreciate you having me today and being able to talk about this with you.
Me too. Thank you so much. I would love to have you on again and be able to talk more, because we didn't even get to get into spirituality and whatnot. So I'd love to.
Okay, so we still have so much more.
We have so much more to talk
about. Two.
Absolutely. Have
to.
Cool. All right, guys, that's all for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening, learning, and growing with me. I hope you continue to do so. My social medias as well as Olivia's will be linked down below. So definitely go and check those out. And as always, keep an open mind, do your own research, and think for yourself. Sending so much love. Bye, guys.